In the past, JNA Real Estate stood for crazy personal branding with nice cars, nice watches. Welcome to another episode of Singapore's Real Estate Explained, where we bring you objective advice, opinions, and also bite-sized information about real estate investments specifically, right? We have none other than Christian O with us once again, and you have to be used to seeing Christian O because he's going to be a co-host on our Singapore's Real Estate Explained podcast as well as video. And you know, I'm so happy today.
Why?
Not just because we are on another episode of Singapore's Real Estate Explained, but also today when I was in the middle of doing a home tour. And I was just, sometimes we show our JNA Real Estate Unlock home tours as a background, like some videos, right, for our home tours. And I realized that the owner actually watched Singapore's Real Estate Explained as well.
Wow, that's great.
And previously it's the churning up process is crazy because we will wait till the news ends the previous week. We have our News Dash episode with Lucas, and then we have to immediately post it. We have to edit it, and everything has to happen on the spot. So we just apologize if you feel that the editing is not done right or well, but we just want to present to you that immediate information about Singapore's real estate information, right? What am I talking about? Immediate information about Singapore's real estate news. So today we're going to be talking about what?
Talk about very interesting news.
Yes.
Buy now, pay later.
Yes.
It's a very big topic in Singapore right now.
Yes. And
have you heard of it?
Yes, I've heard of it. So the context of the planning of this shoot actually happened one day when Lucas, right, and we were having Burger King at in our office. So we were watching, and then Lucas was just watching this. I forgot where is it from. I think it's either Today Online or Straits Times.
I think it could be Alvin.
No, Lucas.
Lucas, okay.
Yes, Lucas. I was eating with Lucas. Alvin gave the idea, why not we do it? So Lucas was like, he was eating his Burger King, and then he was watching this whole thing about a Tomy payment. Watching this whole thing about the whole buy now, pay later thing lah. And I think it's something very related to millennials and Gen Z now, right?
Yep.
In the past, I think our parents are not very into the whole buy now. Were they?
I think they're more of savers.
Yeah,
they really love to save, more prudent, no debt, nothing.
Yes.
It's an Asian culture.
Yes, and what do you think about this? Like the whole buy now, pay later thing?
Wow, I would say it's quite Americanized kind of concept.
Quite Western, yeah.
Yeah, where credit card is a norm.
Yeah.
And getting debts is like a way to finance your lifestyle.
Yeah.
I think it's something that I believe in the long term run, it will become more and more common.
Yeah.
But we need to take note of that, especially right now.
Absolutely. So I think there's a big difference between like good debt and bad debt, right?
Yes.
Like both of us, we are in millions of good debt. Right?
Wow, yes, indeed.
And so this is the reason why we want to talk about this topic today, right? Buy now, pay later, objectively in real estate. What are some of the things you got to take note of? But not that, just want to talk to you all also a little bit more about the whole phenomenon, right? It's worrying, like in my opinion, because I think credit card debts really kill a lot of families, right? It snowballs. We have met owners who had to offload their property because of credit card debts.
Yes,
right?
indeed.
We had one recently that I think recall. We're not going to say the property information or the names for privacy. It's a real thing. So share with us a bit more about this entire thing. Yeah.
Okay. So what is buy now pay later is that people, what they do is they actually for example, GrabPay.
Yeah.
They basically buy something first.
Yeah.
And then they will pay the amount later on.
Yeah.
They spend the installment maybe in the next 2 to 3 months, 4 months, 5 months.
It's very attractive. So when I was like listening to I think the CEO of Atomy talking about buy now pay later.
Yes.
So he was of course being questioned by the media about how it affects Gen Z and millennials, right? And he mentioned something which was quite attractive. He talked about how you can own something, make use of that thing while paying it later on.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? It's like whether is it car or whether is it like even like maybe a branded bag. Like a lot of people are into branded bags.
Sounds like instant gratification.
Instant gratification. Yeah. Like you can enjoy it and then you can pay later on. Honestly, that thought was quite gratifying. I think especially from someone of this generation, right? So I'm seeing here, right? Wow, Gen Zs are redefining payments, and I really hope that is in the right thing. So if you're Gen Z watching this, right, I think let's just share with you from the perspective of a millennial, right, how this whole thing goes. Yeah, please carry on.
Yeah. All right, so they're saying, in fact, in this news, you can see this article right now. This buy now, pay later payments are expected to grow by 26%, reaching $1.270 billion.
Million.
Okay, 1,270.
So it's 1 billion.
1 billion.
Wow.
It is crazy because this is never expected last time.
Yeah.
And if you would understand, as I mentioned just now, buy now pay later is a form of consumer financing. They not just pay later, there's no interest fee at all. So people are just like, I just get my stuff immediately, I just enjoy the thing and I pay later. Why not? And I think for me, as I mentioned just now, what you mentioned is a little worrying, especially when I look at investments.
Yes.
When I look at how we actually plan our finances.
Yeah.
If this continues in long term run, it may snowball. So it's something that we want to highlight to a lot of millennials nowadays to just be aware about this phenomenon and also at the same time be more savvy of our finances.
Yeah. And I think that the whole concept of spending beyond your means.
Yes, indeed.
Looks alluring, and it comes from the whole problem of people's approval, right? I think not just millennials or Gen Z, right? Even myself in the past, I think like when you get into real estate, it gets like a little like, wow, you just want to let people know that you are doing it right, doing well. I even had a video of my car feature, right? And slowly as you realize that in life, people who really love you, like your parents, or your partner, significant other, right? For me, Penny, their approval is more than enough. And of course, God's approval, in our opinion, right? I think it's more than enough. So I understand that this whole thing is very toxic. Like I think like we have faced this before, where we just want to like spend like on like branded things, and I don't know about this. I'm seeing a lot amongst real estate agents of buy now, pay later.
In fact, one example is just happened to me just a few days ago. In fact, you always think of branding, I think of like millennial, even in real estate or in finance industry or in front of friends where you want to be branded in the right way for more marketing and things like that. But a very example good for me, which was a good reminder from God himself, is the car. Like a very common topic where people, millennial nowadays, buy a car, it looks, nice car, branded car. And perhaps, to clients wise, it's also a form of
authority.
Yeah, that's how I see it. I see it as investment form.
Yeah, because you get to make more ROI from the car branding.
Yes, from car branding.
Yeah.
But just 2 days ago, accidents happened.
Wow, big one. Yeah, Chris just went through a very big accident. I think the car is in the workshop for 3 weeks. But good thing that you're still alive. And you're still well. God. Not even injured. Right? I think that's thank God. The accident is crazy.
Yeah, and just a reminder that how these kind of things can be very fleeting. At the same time, instead of branding, marketing approval, it's really about building on your own finances. It's more important. Yes. At the same time, building a business that add values to people. Yes. And that's something I look forward to every single day. And that's something we want to continue to highlight in our business.
And one thing, and I think this will be a perfect IG teaser or TikTok teaser, and that's it, right? In the past, JNA Real Estate stood for crazy personal branding with nice cars, nice watches. And there was an exodus of people who left because there was a whole shift in mindset in our team where you started seeing that we focus more about putting our money into revenue generating assets, ROI, putting into investments rather than putting into cars, right? And so we went through that phase before.
Indeed.
And if my son, you're watching this video eventually, or my daughter, please don't fall into that trap because it's a bottomless pit. I hear of even real estate agents, right? Earning maybe millions, but they're spending millions as well. And there was this wise man who once told me this is never about how much you earn. It's honestly about how much you save, right? And you can be earning $100,000 a month. You save $800 versus someone who's earning $10,000 and saving $4,000 or $5,000, right? All right, let's go it. So this whole thing about BNPL, right? Buy now, pay later is, as you can see from here, it's actually a form of consumer financing. That allows Singaporeans or even global citizens, right, to purchase goods or services and then defer payment. So the only deferred payment I know is when OUE first launched a deferred payment scheme for OUE Twin Peaks, right?
Yes.
And not the best thing happened to OUE Twin Peaks owners, right? We are seeing that, right? Without interest or fees. Yeah. And I think recently, especially with the advent of social media, we are seeing a lot more Gen Z and millennials wanting to buy more things to prove, right?
Very true.
It's actually this whole deep-rooted problem of the lack of love, right? We're not going to preach today. It's not all about Jesus as well, but I think we face that as well. Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can see right over here how buy now pay later works.
Yeah.
You can choose different installment plan. Okay, varying terms, number of installments, and frequency of payment. And even went on the news. I mean, it's something that is even people interviewed to share how they feel about it. And a lot of them actually adopt this mindset. It's all right. There's something, it's actually simplified. Okay, because this approval process is easy and they do not require any credit check or collateral.
Which is crazy.
Okay, which is crazy. Credit check means check what is your past
background.
Yeah. Collateral means like a property or like a
collateralize anything.
Correct. So there's no particular attachment to any kind of loan.
Yeah.
And this typically, right, they don't charge interest or fees.
Yeah.
Okay, but late or missed payment will result in penalty, and that's the scary part.
Yeah.
I just remember that I have a client, I mean a one who very close to me, who in fact because of this, what they did is like credit card. Last time, credit card, they used to have this 12 months payment. Prepayment means if within 12 months, I mean, you don't have to be interest free. You don't have to pay until 12 months later.
Yeah.
And as long as you can pay 12 months later, I mean, you clear your debt, typically, this interest is not charged on you.
Yeah.
So it's very lucrative. So a lot of credit card came out in this kind of form. So what the client did is he used one credit card, pen and credit card. So for example, credit card A, 20K.
Yeah.
20K. 1 year later, because cannot pay, so he borrowed from that credit card 20K to put in this 20K. So imagine, and the expense going up and up. So from 20K to 40K until it hit maybe 2 years down the road, it was close to 100K.
That concept seems logical.
Yes.
Right? I mean, if I'm in that, I will be thinking about that as well, right? Like, how do you roll? And what happened? Like, it snowballed.
And then it snowballed 100K and he couldn't pay. The interest fee from 0% went up to 22.4% per annum.
Wow.
And it's compounded.
So how much did he borrow? And then how much was the interest in the end?
Wow. I remember it was close to 100. So I say around 80 to 100K.
80K to 100K in debt.
It snowballed to close to 190.
So means 90K interest.
90K
it's close to 100% in interest.
Yeah, and that's scary. If you roll,
okay.
That's something that reminds me. That's why it's sort of like had this particular
this trauma and this not trauma. I would say this reminder.
This reminder.
Do you know what's the funniest thing?
Yes.
I remember the day when you had your first credit card.
Oh, okay.
And it's quite recent, right? It wasn't like in the past you used to use debit card, right?
Yes, I used to use.
The biggest thing that my parents taught me was this.
Yeah.
Don't get a credit card. But okay, honestly, right, after I talked to some friends, actually credit card makes sense because you get miles and everything. But you have to be very prudent, right?
Correct.
You know what's the funniest thing?
What is that?
So of course, like when I was doing well in real estate and when I was 23, I became a millionaire, blah blah blah. I didn't have a credit card until 23, 23, even after I earned $1 million, I had no credit card. I only started to have a credit card, right, at like maybe 20, my first personal credit card, 25.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I realized that you could survive with a debit card.
You're right.
And it's so good because you get to see how much money you have in the bank.
Yep.
But of course, you will not have the perks and the miles lah. So one golden rule that I have, right, if you are going to watch here, only until here and you're going to stop the video, right, is this. I only spend what I have in the bank. Actually, right, to be honest, every single month, I spend about maybe maximum 10% of my income at that month. And other than that, anything else will be saved and invested.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's something that you also reminded, right?
Yes.
You are someone who's like that. You believe in generating cash flow before spending the money.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and that's something that we follow. And that's why, I want to tell you something. Financial freedom, right? It's amazing. Okay, not that you are able to retire or anything. I think that is overrated lah. But financial freedom gives you that liberty to do anything you want, challenge, take risks without you worrying about is my fiance going to have anything to eat? Is my pet dog going to have anything to eat? My parents, how are they going to be doing? Right? I think that is the beauty of financial freedom.
Indeed.
So instant gratification is a no-no.
Definitely.
Your favorite quote, what is it?
Wow, sow in tears, reap with songs of joy.
Absolutely. So sowing in tears comes with delayed gratification, and reaping in songs of joy is when the gratification comes. Then that is when you're happy and you feel liberated. Right. One scariest thing that a lot of millennials and Gen Z people love to do, right, which I fell into the trap before, is lifestyle inflation.
Yes, indeed.
Lifestyle inflation kills you. I tell you, it is horrendous because there was a time where I could easily spend. The suspense is here for the IG and the TikTok reel. I could have easily spent. I easily spent, not could have, $30,000 to $40,000 a month, and I was in like 24. Yeah,
that's scary
because you feel that you're confident in earning, right? So you just have the money in, you spend the money in. But now I can tell you, I'm at a stage of my life where it's just so liberating, right? Savings are great. We have a property that's resettled. Anything goes wrong, could pay the property. I have income generating assets, right? Which is something that you always tell me, right? And Chris came from a background where, he understood the importance of choosing the right asset. right? So let's talk about what SG Budget Bit talk about. Thank you. Shout out to you, SG Budget Bit. You're amazing. We do read your article. One day for a collaboration. Whenever you're ready, let us know. Yeah. But let's talk about this article. Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, one of the biggest problem they mentioned is another debt.
Yeah.
That we buy now, pay later, where it will continue to roll. Especially, as I mentioned, it's quite similar to credit card, the kind of concept. Where now, unlike most of the credit card that we have now, we tend to pay down. I mean, that's something I would always recommend. Every single month you have to pay. And budget, I mean, let's say for me, 3 to 4%. I mean, okay, based on your income wise, of how much you're earning. But as long as set aside a certain budgeting to actually spend expenses, you are safe to go. But if this problem were to continue, this buy now pay later continue, it will create a very, very big trend of bad debts in Singapore.
Yes. And I think SG Budget Bit, when writing her own editorial, we didn't include the whole editorial here because please go to her source and read it for yourself. But she was seeking reference to this Straits Times article, right? That talked about compulsive shopping.
Yes.
And talked about how overspending is the greatest sin, right? May not be biblical, but it's true, right? Compulsive shoppers, if you are a compulsive shopper yourself, right? Please remember, don't use a credit card, And I tell you one thing, because of all the growing up that we had to do, the hurt that we have gone through individually, right? People who don't matter, right? And remember this, if you're a Gen Z or millennial, people who don't matter always have the most thing to talk about. If today Chris were to downgrade from his Porsche to like I don't know, anything, right?
I'll just take Grab.
Yeah, there is taking Grab sometimes is not really a downgrade, but taking a bus or MRT. There's zero judgment on my end, and I care for him. And people who don't care about you, they are the biggest critic. I think you should buy this car I think you should buy this watch and they don't care. Right? So if you're watching this, if you are trying to seek the approval of someone who you think is very cool and popular, let us tell you this thing. At least at JNA Real Estate, we don't care what you own, okay? And honestly, the ultra high net worth clients that we meet, the cars and the watches that they wear sometimes are even way humbler than what you're seeing, people posting on social media. And I can tell you, you don't see an ounce of branded thing on them.
True.
Because they know financial prudence before becoming an ultra high net worth.
I think because they don't have proof anymore.
Absolutely.
I think that's something that we must take note.
In the previous generations without social media, there's nothing about proving. Today, if Chris owns a limited edition Richard Mille, it's nicely locked up in his safe and no one knows about it. But now with social media, consumerism is on the rise. So please remember, don't accumulate too much bad debts, right? So what about in the context of real estate, Chris? How is the whole buy now, pay later concept like?
Yeah, so very interesting topic. In fact, we're going to link it to real estate right now. Because buy now, pay later in real estate actually links to this thing called debt. Okay, property debt.
I'm seeing that you're choosing this very interesting photo. Do you mind sharing with us why this photo was chosen?
Because it's shiny.
Great. Okay, just a context, right? As I mentioned, this is a disclaimer, right? Nothing that is said here should be used as financial advice. We're just doing our best to advise you. But shiny home. Honestly, it doesn't mean that buying any real estate makes you money. We have seen horror stories of people losing money as well. But yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about debts for properties.
Yeah. So the very similar concept of property debts. Okay, there are a few kinds of debt. Okay, one is the normal way of buying a property, a resale property, where you just borrow 75% loan to value ratio and same pay out every month. Okay, there's a form of normal debt. There's another kind of debt called a progressive payment. Maybe it's very similar to kind of buy now pay later concept if you talk about consumerism, where you buy a new development, where basically you don't have to pay the full mortgage because the building is not fully constructed yet. So it's split over a period of time. So I'll give you an example. Tembusu Grand, if for example, you borrow a loan of 1.312 million, usually as a resale property, actually a loan based on 4.5% interest rate should give you around 6,002. But because this is a BUC, which means a building under construction, so you typically can, it's a progressive payment where, fun fact, if you may not know about this, you don't have to pay the full mortgage right from the start. Okay, for the first 6 months, okay, when the foundation is being built, the estimated mortgage is $418, which is around, I say, close to 20 times, okay, maybe 15 times lower than that of the usual mortgage.
The full mortgage.
The full mortgage. And as time goes by, okay, 6 months later, 1,002, okay, 1,006, okay, 6 months later, 2,000, okay, 3 months later, 2,005, until you collect key. Even when you collect key at 4.5% interest rate, assuming now it still remain high after 3 years later, which may not be so, it will be 5,000 a a month. And that is when you collect the key. So typically, you don't have to pay the entire full mortgage payment, unlike a resale property, because it's not completed yet.
And one thing that I just really think that what the government has done really well is that they have actually adjusted the regulations of delaying the exercise of the property. In the past, you used to be able to delay the exercise of the OTP.
Reissue option.
Yeah, they call it the reissuing of option, right? But right now, you have to exercise the SMP within 5 weeks if you're buying a BUC. So you pay 5% first, then you pay 15% roughly 8 weeks later, right?
Yes.
Can I share with you a very interesting story that I had in Ho Chi Minh?
Yeah, sure.
It was so interesting because when I went to Ho Chi Minh, and you know that I was there, trying to look at some global investment opportunity, shopping for some property with the investment team. And I chanced upon a BUC that was developed by a Singapore developer, CapitaLand, right?
Oh, wow, okay.
So the payment terms were like this, right? So you have just had to pay a 5 or 10% down, and 1 or even 2 years later, then you pay the remaining. So that gave me the thought of like, wow, interesting. Means example, if this property is $300,000 USD, I just had to put on a 10%, which is $30,000, and then I pay the remaining $270,000 in 2 years' time, right?
Yep.
And it's very scary because you are owning an asset by paying the 10% first, assuming that your business will go well, your income will do well, and you have the $270,000 to pay later on. So that was when I realized that a consumer going into the market there is this very interesting dilemma that they will face, right? Decisions that will face. Number one is I already have the $270,000 in my bank, and I don't mind paying the $30,000 first. Use that $270K that I have in my bank and roll it, right? Whether is it putting it into S&P, putting it in Golden Agri, I'm not asking you to buy the stock, my good 7% dividend stock, right? Or putting it into fixed D right now. Or I don't have the money in my bank and I just put 30K first and then I faster save the money and buy later on. Let's say if this property is $1.5 million. Then you put at 10% is $150,000. Will be quite stretched for some Singaporeans already. And then the remaining 1.35 million, because you can't take a loan in Vietnam if you're not local, right?
Yep.
Then you say 2 years later, then I pay lor. So it will give you that whole conflated scenario where I'm owning so many properties and I can pay later on.
Yeah.
And it's quite scary.
False illusion.
Precisely.
Yep.
So I think what Singapore government has done is really, really great, right? They actually make sure that there's no speculative buys. And they make sure that you are prudent. You can afford it because you have to pay 8 weeks later. If you carry back, borrow, don't steal, but you back, borrow, and then at least, or you tap on your own money to pay, right?
Right.
So my question here is this, Nix.
Yes.
Do the criticisms on buy now, pay later actually apply to property loans? I mean, let's just be objective, right? This is the whole reason why we're doing Singapore's Real Estate Explained.
Yes,
so
indeed.
What do you think about it? Yeah.
Well, honestly, for me, because I see real estate as an asset.
Yeah.
And as long as you rent it out, typically it's actually a very strong asset that generate passive income.
Yeah.
That's something is called a good debt versus a bad debt.
Yes.
Okay, so for example, let's take a look at one of the critics for buy now pay later for consumerism.
We actually sat down and we went to dissect the different criticisms that people were talking about for buy now pay later, and we just want to give you that objective opinion and advice as to when it comes to real estate, if you buy now pay later, what are some things that you got to take note of, right?
Yes,
so the first critic, right, is this consumerism, right? Buy now pay later for consumerism is overspending and debt accumulation. That's something that a lot of our parents' generation they're very scared of. You realize, right, a lot of the generation, I would call them, they are Gen X or are they
Gen Y?
Gen Y, is it? Yeah, okay.
Y.
So I'm not too sure, but our parents' generation are about 50 plus years old. They always fully pay their property. So what do you think about this?
Wow, okay. Maybe let's talk about consumerism first.
Yes.
About overspending and debt accumulation.
Yeah.
Because people defer payment, as I mentioned, they have a false illusion. They think that, hey, I can actually wait longer to pay.
Yeah.
And they lead to impulsive buying beyond their means. And then subsequently, when they cannot pay, they similar to the credit card concept that I shared just now, that people end up couldn't pay and they start to roll. Yeah. And this is very strange for financial and long-term run.
Absolutely. I think to contextualize it, there are a couple of bear runs that you see in the real estate market in the past, right? 1996, you have the Asian financial crisis, you see private PPI dropping. 2000 dot-com bust, you see there are actually there's a whole bear run that happened 2000 2004. Then all the way up to the leading up to the GFC, you see speculative buys, prices crash again, and then 2013 to 2015, where you saw plenty of rounds of cooling measures where there was artificial suppression in the market. And I think in the past, to give us some context, it's very easy to take a loan. You don't even need much of a proof, income proof.
Indeed.
Right? And that's why people, over speculated.
Well leveraged.
But right now, what I think is that with TDSR and MSR,
it's much better.
Much safer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
In fact, just give a context, before like the 2013 period, someone with 10K income can easily borrow 2+ million.
Oh.
Yeah, now it's less than 1.2. So, I mean, that's something that we're thankful for. And convert this thing called a bad debt. Okay.
Yes.
Bad debt is like where you over leverage, you spend beyond your means. Or bad debt, you spend on not assets, but spend on liability, on spendings.
Yes.
Like credit card for consumerism. That is when the debt roll out of control. But a good debt is something that is well secured.
In assets.
Right? Yeah. Okay. And also you're not over leveraging. That's something we'll discuss later on. And it allow you to generate income. So something that strikes very deep in me, this book called Rich Dad Poor Dad. Which I think most of people may have read about this book before, where they talk about how the poor, the middle class, and the rich spend their money. And something that shocks me is we're poor because the income cannot put into any kind of enjoyment. It's mainly for hand to mouth, where they spend expenses.
So what they do is that they actually earn the money, then they will pay taxes first, then they'll pay their accommodation, which is rent. Sometimes they don't even own the asset, then food, transportation, clothes, enjoyment, right? What about the middle class?
The middle class have a bit more in the excess, but they make this a particular mistake of spending on liabilities. In fact, one thing to take note is in terms of mortgage-wise, car loans, credit card debt, school loans, and that itself still become expenses and flows out. And one thing that shocks me quite deeply about this concept is when you look at a car loan, especially its expenses. And one thing that, in fact, Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki actually mentioned, that the house you're staying that is actually considered like a liability, especially it doesn't appreciate and it's extra spending. So that is only when you can convert all this liability asset and generate rental income or asset that can grow, then it will be labeled as asset.
Absolutely. So when investing in a real estate investment, aim for at least capital appreciation or rental income.
Yes.
Right?
Indeed.
So this is the funny thing, right? A lot of people think that the whole concept and context of being poor just means that your income is low. But actually you can be a high salaried worker and you still can be poor because all of your money goes towards rent, food, transportation, clothes, right? And whereas if you are the middle class, right, you can own a nice house, you can have a mortgage, your home may not appreciate, which is a big problem. And then part of your money goes to credit card payment or car payment. And that's why it's very hard to be rich, because being rich requires a lot of delayed gratification. Right? Plenty of rental income, dividends, unit interest, royalties, right? Depending on which asset you are. So which stage of life you are at. So personally, what do you think, right? From a millennial to a millennial who's watching this, or a millennial to a Gen Z, right? What do you think is the best form of income?
Wow. I believe passive income, they always say.
Yeah.
Passive income that can cover your active income expenses.
So means you are of a school of thought that your passive income should cover your expenses in life.
Yes.
And that's when you can actually have financial freedom, right?
True. What do you think?
Personally, I think that the best form of income is always business income.
Okay.
Because I think that when I'm in the stock market investing, or when I'm buying properties and I enjoy appreciation, right? Business income always outbeats real estate income. Right. And that's what I personally feel. But also being more realistic, right? Not everyone may be able to straight away, first start up, able to, make so much money or make good money, right? So I think that business income, which is still an active income, converted into what you mentioned, the passive income real estate sources, and trying to make sure that your lifestyle and your expenses falls like maybe only at 20% of the amount of money they make from active income, and the rest of the 80% can always be used to roll and invest in more real estate. To convert into passive as well.
Okay. So I think this is something that to take note that is very different from the normal consumerism where buy now pay later. That shocks me. Okay, so the critic number 2. Let's look at critic number 2, where we are still there are other critics that mention the late payment fees and penalties. So there's something that they will penalize if you, although do not charge interest at the start, if you were to pay, beyond the payment time, they may end up having a penalty fee that can go up to 4 to 5%, even higher. It may be not as bad as credit card, but it's still a huge sum to consider. And this may cause financial difficulties for consumer, especially when struggle repayment. So one thing that I want to highlight, and we link to property. Back to property, a very similar concept of property loan. To take note, to be very objective here, they also have penalty also. If you have late payment fees and penalty. And there's something for a standard home loan. For example, if you were to have the 1 to 3 year lock-in, there's one downside to take note. Through loan disbursement, where loan servicing commence after signing the sales and purchase, or rather the option to purchase unit. If you don't pay, of course, the collateral, there's a risk of your home being taken away. Yeah. Meanwhile, for BUC, same thing. Okay, if you were to not pay for a loan, same concept. There will always be a collateral that you need to pledge your property for.
Yeah.
So the key thing over here, I think I want to highlight for property loan, like buy now pay later, is you need to have enough cash flow. And we look at this thing called the safety net.
Yes.
Which I'll share a bit more later on.
Yes. So later on in the later part of the video, we're going to share with you actually how then do you make sure that you don't over leverage when it comes to real estate investments. This is something that we both use as well, right? We both follow it religiously as well. And the whole concept about holding power, actually what is holding power all about, right? Because especially when you're younger, it's your first asset, you tend to go a little bit more bullish and speculative. I feel there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's perfectly okay to go bullish and speculative in your first asset, but speculation also can be calculated one. Yeah, it doesn't have to be a gamble, right? A lot of people say, no, real estate investments can be risky. I say, of course, there are risky investments, but we're not gambling in the real estate market. We are speculating all the way down towards how many % of growth you can go, but we want to make sure that it's a definite growth. How many %? That's our speculation. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Which is true, because real estate itself, although it's illiquid, but the data, if you were to get the right data, at the same time, before people know about it, because it's not totally transparent at times, you're able to make a first move advantage. Absolutely. That's the beauty of it.
Absolutely. It's the imperfect information that all the economists talk about, where this is when you can get that leverage and arbitrage, right?
The arbitrage,
to earn more from the market. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, just one more thing to take note about late payment fee and penalty. There's also, if you reject a loan,
DBS, thank you so much to our dear banker. You know who you are. Always supporting us. Yeah.
If you reject a loan after accepting letter offer, there's some penalty at 0.75%. If you refi a loan, refinance is basically you were to change your bank. Means after borrowing for 1 year, 2 years, you decide to switch your loan from one bank to another bank. If it's during lock-in period, there'll be actually another penalty, which people may not know. That's something we hope to share more so that people on the ground will be aware about this.
So usually people like to do refinancing because the interest rates for the other bank is more attractive. So you always do a calculation, right? Meet up with your broker. You can always talk to us. We can share with you a little bit more about if, let's say, based on the penalty and how much you're refining, is it actually worth it or not? Yeah.
Yes. So there's some things that you need to take note
and
about.
these hidden fees can hit up to 5 figures on it.
Yes,
you know, one of my owners, they actually pay high five figures just for the late payment fee. Oh, not late payment fee, the refi fee. Yeah.
Wow,
and it's hidden one because you don't know, because you take from your property.
Correct. So that's something you need to really
know.
think.
Yeah, you have to know about this.
For this. Okay, but other than that, if you have holding power, I guess, and also be aware about all these small little penalties and fees that is involved in bank, you're actually safe to go because you are, well equipped with all this knowledge.
Absolutely. So affordability is king.
Yes.
Yeah, holding power is king. Every single time when you see, we have been looking at so many developments. We see so many kind of transactions. I think we have seen more than maybe 5,000, 6,000 transactions, right? Not because we have done it, but because, we go online, of course, through real estate transaction data, you can see every single time, if that owner were to push through a little bit, few more years, the losses become crazy profits, right? Because you can never time the market.
It's a time in the market.
It's how long you have in the market. You can never time the market. It's how long you have in the market that decides your profitability. So every time people ask me this question, if next year COVID happen again, how? If next year Russia decide to invade another country, how? If next year, Singapore sinks, how? If next year there's a huge typhoon that suddenly comes to Singapore, how? We can never predict these events. If you are able to predict these events, right? I think even geomancers can't predict these events, right? But it's always about whether you can hold through the storm.
You're right.
So every single time when this kind of questions are thrown in our space, it's irrelevant. There's that you can't even answer it, right?
You're right.
It's irrelevant because it's how long you can hold the market. So the entry price, it's important. Resale price gap analysis has to be done right. We follow our 4-step specific investment philosophy, which is safe. It's not going to make you millions, but it's definitely going to make you hundreds of thousands. And holding power is key.
You're right.
I have to emphasize that. Yeah.
In fact, one thing I'll highlight now about safety net.
Yes.
If you are young, I say at least 1 year of safety net.
Yes.
In case anything happen, property, something happen, you can still able to finance the property for at least 1 year.
Absolutely.
So that's why it's just called, we will still be able to save up this amount.
The 1 year, you're talking about the mortgage, right?
The mortgage, 1 year for mortgage, right?
Yep.
But if it's someone who is more risk averse, maybe 2 to 3 years. So it depends on risk appetite.
Absolutely. And I think the investment team here is very strong in creating based on your risk appetite. We are able to customize different solutions for you. Every time we say this, right, we tell our clients this: when you buy a property, right, most important thing, right, is not making money. is that when you go home, right, you can sleep. Because if you buy a property and you cannot sleep, then what's the point? You're trading your life, your health for money, right? No point at all, right? So some people say that, Jarvis or Chris, right? I'm looking for an asset that can make me, I just want to know that it can make me some passive income, some cash flow. To me, appreciation is not important. Then that's when you go for the rental option. And you got to make sure that there is even renting tests that you have to do, right? That we do to make sure that we advise the customer that you can buy the particular asset, right? If you say, like me, okay, I'm someone who is actually more bullish, right? I like to go for big capital appreciation, right? So then you can consider other asset classes. So it depends on your risk appetite. There's never going to be this asset is the best for you, right? It depends on you. And that's why in general estate, in our investment team, we always do this, right? We always do needs analysis first. We make sure that, we know your risk appetite, what's in your portfolio as well. Tell us where your life goes in the next 10, 15 years, right? And from there, we can advise you what's the best kind of asset to kickstart.
Yeah. It's different for different individuals.
100%.
Right. Okay. Let's take a look at the third critique for buy now, pay later consumerism, where there's lack of transparency and confusing terms because there's so many variations of it. So there are hidden fees, complex installment plans, and varying repayment terms according to different providers. So this will usually lead to misunderstanding and subsequently financial strain.
And apparently, right, if you were to use Atomi, right? Okay, I shout out to Atomi. I think I'm at the fence about buy now, pay later, but it obviously gave some liberty and financial freedom for some people to use to pay later, right? If used right, But apparently, right? If you were to buy now and pay later and you don't pay, right? It doesn't affect your credit score. That's what Atomi said.
Yes,
but it's quite scary. Does it not?
Actually, it doesn't because it's not tied to certain
any financial institution,
banks,
and
right? The amount is too small for them to want to trace.
What if I buy like maybe $150,000 of stuff and I pay later? I
think that's a cap.
There should be a cap, right?
Yeah, the cap of how much you can spend.
Interesting. Yeah.
So it's more of like for daily needs, daily things.
Yeah.
And there's something, but it's also still something that's worth taking notice of because this kind of transparency, if not mentioned clearly, not just Atomi, there are other providers also. That's something we have to be very, very particular about and keep track of.
My concept is always like, behind the scenes there's a lot of things that's happening that we don't know. But it's always stated that it's not, but then maybe behind there's always some ratings that is seen somewhere. I've not went to the bank before, so I don't know. If you're a banker and there's such things, please comment and let us know. I think it'd be very useful for our viewers as well.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
And this together with number 4, okay. What is mentioned just now? You say for a start, okay, maybe that moment, they will affect your credit score. But if you delay payment, okay, for more than 2 years, something that may not know by people, it will end up, reporting late payment and also tell you to borrow from a bank to pay, and that will in fact affect your credit score.
Yes.
And this is something that is in the future. It means like for now, you say it will not affect, but it's not the whole story. It's the thing comes in 2 years later, 3 years later. There's something to take note. Okay. Allow me to get the other critics also. Okay, so must understand what does credit score mean. I mean, just long story short, is when you borrow a debt, okay, the bank won't just say, okay, I'll lend you money. They'll look at, usually this is called a credit bureau. And the more they want to borrow, okay, the more they will look at this amount credit score. So for real estate also similarly, if you are, for example, went through bankruptcy before, your credit rating is very, very low, banks won't unlikely to lend you any money. Okay, and the more that you take, the lower score. Okay, fun fact, I will share with you a story from my side also. I have a client who actually, like, he's earning lots of income, things are great, and basically he found out one day his credit score, although he pays his mortgage on time every single month, okay, a credit card every single month, his credit rating, A is the best.
Yes.
He got a DD rating. And I was like, wow. I was like, when I look at his loan, it was like, you should be alright because he pay on time every month. And I found out because he's young. So I didn't know about this, but I noticed when you are very young, okay, and you get a lot of loan and although you pay every month on time, the credit bureau actually flag out and say that this person is anomaly.
Because he's too young to take a loan. How old is he?
And
or she?
Mid-25.
Really?
And he's earning good income from crypto, from other things. So it's something very interesting. People
must be a big loan. You must have a big loan.
Must be a big loan. And he also earn quite a few assets and other things that he leverage on loan. And he's earning quite good. So it's not just about it's quite fun fact. It's not just about because you are well paid, although and he paid down his loan every month. That's something that I couldn't figure out. So only and he borrowed me 5 or 6 credit card one shot. So that's why sometimes credit rating is a very elusive thing to take note. And we also must when borrow loan, for some clients, we also do run through this, make sure credit rating is okay.
So when in doubt, remember, just check with your bankers, right? And I talk to them about this. I think they are the professionals and the experts to advise you on all of these things as well.
Yes, indeed. So this is something to take note.
Yeah.
Okay, to lump it together, critic 5, before link to real estate, is targeting vulnerable consumers.
Yeah.
Okay, some cases, a lot of these buy now pay later schemes, they are targeted to low income earners, low financial literacy or difficulties with financials, not enough to pay, and that's when they face a lot of trouble repayment.
Yeah.
Okay, but I want to have mentioned, in contrast to this real estate, they tend to, out of these 3 different things, right? They look at credit score, they look at all these things, but it's more safeguarded.
Yeah.
There's more regulations involved.
And there's this trend that I see amongst a lot of the customers, right? Where like, is the customers are very astute investors, they are financially prudent, they know how to make money through real estate or even from private equity or even stocks, right? You realize that generationally, right, their kids always get richer and richer.
Yeah, right.
But for clients, some of our clients who unfortunately is always overspending, making poor financial decisions, you see that the kids are always in this cyclical cycle of being poor.
Yeah, right.
And it's very unfortunate because it's generational. So that's why every single time I feel like I want to buy something that is not very wise, it always starts with that small decision that you make first. And then it slowly become bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And you reach a level where you realize that even though you can make a lot of money, you are still financially poor and you have no savings. And
that impact your generations, impact your kids also, the mindset, the thing. That's why it's a very
it's
big
hard
topic.
to break that chain, right? It's hard to break that
It's
chain.
like an ongoing cycle.
Yeah. So if, me and Chris were having a conversation about us having kids eventually, it's sometime soon. Right?
Oh, yeah.
And we asked ourselves this question, right? Talking, we said, do we want to 穷养 our kids or 富养 our kids? Okay. So what does 穷养means? 穷养means poor what lah? What's young in
Poor
English?
feeding.
Poor feeding. How
Sorry,
do I say?
my
It's like, it's maybe poor upbringing.
Okay.
You want to not poor upbringing, but you want to bring. Okay, simply put, 穷养 means you want to bring have a wow. What's
okay. Maybe I
help me.
Okay, I'm trying. Okay, my Chinese. Activating the Chinese mode. Okay, translate. It just means you bring out your kids in an environment where we are not financially luxurious in spending.
Yeah, so maybe you are not giving your kids with all the freedom to spend all the money you have.
Yes.
Or would you give your kids with all the freedom to spend the money you have? Right.
So what will you do?
Wow.
I pause on a moment.
Because it will affect our credibility, Next time our kids come out already, then people see that, our kids actually is... Okay, so personally, right, I think that... I think there's nothing wrong with giving your kids fine things or finer things because of the hard work that we have, right? Or we worked hard, right? But I think it's wrong to give your kids the finest things and to give your kids too much financial autonomy to make decisions based on your wealth.
Yeah, right.
Because we have met some fuatai and asiakia, right? They are great fuatai's.
Yes,
they are financially prudent. Wow, they make better financial decisions than a lot of people who are self-made. But there are some who you can see the moment they want a new car, it just comes on there. And I remember I met one of this person who is 19 years old. I kid you not. I heard this story actually. And I saw him, right? And I met him. And the moment he wants a Lamborghini, right? The next day the Lamborghini just appears at his door. And you will know nothing about money. Yeah. You will just know about satisfying the flesh and pleasure. And you know nothing about investing. You know nothing about literacy. And I have seen businesses, right? That generation business that go bust. And these kids, right, they are left with nothing and they are lost in life because they have no skill sets.
Skill set. Especially financial literacy.
100%. Will you 富养 or 穷养 your kid?
For me, okay, Joey used to laugh at me when I say this. I say I'll 穷养.
No, I won't laugh like you said this.
Yeah, because that's what you say, sure. Then I'm like, actually, because I feel for kids wise, bringing up, they need financial literacy. Yeah. And the financial literacy style is, for example, if you want to get something, you have to work for it rather than thinking of, it sounds very sad to say, thinking of getting it just because we can afford it. Yeah. So that's something that's for me. If I will lead, my kids will be more of investment style.
We shall see about that.
Yeah, let's see. 10 years later, we review this
Not
video.
10 years. I think in 3 years, you can see it.
Yeah, 3 years.
When you see Chris kids come out, one Fendi shirt, one Balenciaga pens.
Maybe I'll just be a singlet and shorts.
Okay, that's interesting.
Right, yes.
What about the next critique on the potential impact on merchants? Yeah.
Okay, because this critique is really saying that the service may impose action costs on merchants, such as transaction fees. And basically, I mean, this is more of a business sense for merchants that adopt this like buy now pay later scheme.
Yep.
And they may some cash flow issue, but it's more for a business sense.
Yeah.
But not for really consumers.
I personally feel that, to be really honest, this critique doesn't really make sense because actually with buy now pay later, merchants get more market share because people who cannot afford it are buying it.
Yeah,
right?
they adopt this system. Right?
Yeah, so you just have to do your discounts properly, right?
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the last critique.
Yeah.
You're looking at regulatory oversight and consumer protection because this is very new. This whole system very new. So they may get regulation, they safeguard consumer safeguards, which I heard, okay, one example would be very similar to the concept, okay, I heard from this thing called N Financials.
Yes.
They actually had this particular scheme where they do buy now pay later.
Yep.
Where actually I have some China clients that actually shared how this actually impacted their kids' lifestyle. Because some of the kids, I mean, don't need to even be 21 years old to borrow loan.
Really?
Yeah. So I heard what they do is, some of the finance.
I will do it. I mean, I won't for pleasures. I will do it for business.
Yeah, for business. Yeah. So
for business.
Yeah, but a lot of that is more about that. Because what they do is they actually
spend, and
then they spend on game credits. And they use a parents' credit card and experience this kind of this way. Okay, so that's why that's what I heard from a China client. That's why they clamped down on this particular scheme to prevent it. But there could be two sides of the story. We never know. But the key thing is, these are some examples where if regulatory rules, right, nothing is used to clamp down. Things are open. It may expose consumers, as mentioned here, to risks such as data breaches, dispute, unfair practices, and generation destruction sometimes. You never know. That's something that we need to be very, very particular about.
Parenting is getting very real for me nowadays. And even though I haven't had a kid yet, fun fact, me and Chris attended a parenting course 2 years ago.
Oh, yes.
About how do we raise a modern day knight to be a strategic dads in the future. We attended it together.
Yes.
But our dear client invited us there. It's so interesting. But it's getting real because Chris is getting married this year. I'm getting married next year, early next year. And I think kids will come out within the next 2 to 3 years, right?
Very soon.
And maybe for ourselves, we know that maybe we can control, right? Because we have seen the aftermath of bad financial decisions.
You're right.
But for our kids, you talking to me about gaming credits, it's quite scary. Can you imagine if we have our kids who snowball this, right?
Yes.
So if you're our future kid, right, please, you're watching this, please don't anyhow go and spend the money on the gaming credit. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I have 2 questions, right? Last 2 questions to conclude the whole topic. I think this is the last criticism already, right?
Yes.
Number 1, what is your concept? Or what's your opinion, right, on buy now, pay later in consumerism, in buying things that you like? Okay. Number 2, I tell you the answer will shock you because my answer will be slightly different. Number 2 is this, buy now, pay later in real estate. I think as real estate agents, we have seen, or investors ourselves, we have seen the benefits of it. So it's obviously we'll say that it's going to be a good debt, right? But what are some of the things that someone can take note of when buy now, pay later, when buying now and paying later for real estate? Okay. Yeah, let's address the first question first. Buy now, pay later on consumerism.
Okay. For me, buy now, pay later is a definite no. For me, myself, because I believe in spending prudently and spending whatever they have. Rather than plus I'm someone who is a little more, I forget things. Actually, when I pay a payment, I forget it's there.
Miss payment.
Yeah, miss payment.
I'm also like that.
Yeah, so sometimes just a lot of things in my mind. So that's something that I'm not a fan of. So that's for buy now, pay later. Yeah. But for real estate wise, something to take note. I won't say it's entirely good at times, especially if you may not know about what you're investing in, a lack of data. That's something that I would rather take a more prudent approach towards that. But if you are very involved in the data trend, knowing all these things, that's when we can transit to buy now, pay later with the right safety net, with the right asset class. That's something that allows us to be more prudent in terms of spendings.
100%. Yeah.
How about you?
Myself, I think that I used to like to fully pay everything that I have, like whether is it car, whether is it like real estate, if I can, right?
Yep.
Or whether is it, bigger purchases in my life, right? Okay, anything that is based off expenses for pleasures, let's say it's a very nice watch that you want to buy, I don't believe in buy now, pay later. I believe that you must at least have you can buy at least, I follow this principle. You can buy at least 10 of that thing before you go and buy one thing. Okay, if you cannot buy 10 of that thing, then please don't buy that one thing, right? In your bank, means the money in your bank, not your credit card allows you to buy 10 of that thing, okay? It's different.
Yes.
But I'm of a concept that if your money can be used to generate higher ROI, let's say if you buy a car, which is what we do, right? You buy a car, we don't fully pay the car because the interest of maybe 1.88%, I can get a good return with the amount of money in 4% in the stock market easily. Then I will buy now and then I'll just pay later. But I'll make sure that in order to not miss payments, I have a very strong CFO in my life.
Yes.
And the CFO is none other than my fiancée herself. She makes sure that all payments are made. Even fines, sometimes HDB car park the fines I get because I park on the red zone, the red line, right? She paid for me.
Wow,
so
okay.
The pro tip is this. In your life, there's always 3 people. Number one, your CEO. You can be the CEO or you can have a CEO because the CEO of your life decides the vision of your life. Number two, your CFO. Your CFO, you cannot be everything one, right? Your CFO is who, right? Like for me and Chris, right? We are responsible to make money for the family. The CFO manages the money, right? Not investments lah, but make sure that, all taxes are being paid lah. We recently just reported our taxes. It's a very arduous process, right?
Yes,
we need accountants as CFO. And the third one is your CMO. Who's your chief marketing officer? Your branding officer, right? If you are one person then you will never be able to do well. And most importantly is this. Okay, yes, saving is important, but think about how you can increase your business revenue. Think about if you are employed, how you can how you can be self-employed, how you can increase, your pay, which is sometimes quite hard, right? Self-employed, how you can transit to a business. If you're a business, how you can expand. Because even if you save for Starbucks every single day, $5, a year you can only save $150. 30 days of Starbucks, $5, right? Let's say 2 Starbucks, $300. But think about how you can 10 times your income. I think that is actually more important. And for real estate specifically, I'm of the position that if your business revenue or your income at your workplace, fun fact, I just met someone who's employer and he's earning way more than a lot of the business owners I know. And it's insane. He's buying a GCB now. So if you are employed or if you are self-employed or a business owner, make sure that when you buy a property, your business revenue can at least cover your mortgage. If you cannot, you're over-speculating. Don't go into that kind of speculation. Yeah, if your business income, because sometimes rental may not come in. Sometimes there may be a crazy increase in interest rates. And that's the reason why you see, people who have a lot of properties, right? With the interest rates increasing, there's a crazy jump in terms of their mortgage. They cannot pay for the property. So if your business expense can cover, then you're safe.
How much percent will you say that?
Wow, for me, I'm very safe. Actually, I'm quite safe in that. I just make sure that maybe my mortgage, right, per month, right, collectively, right, is like maybe 80% of maybe 70% of my business income. Yeah. And it's not that my business income is paying for the mortgage, but I'm saying that the rental income pays for the mortgage. But at least if all rental stops that month, at least I got a safety to pay. Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a very good point to make.
Yeah. All right. So any last things to say?
Wow, it's a very, very deep topic.
I see we took 51 minutes.
Wow.
How do we do that? Right?
Yes.
Yeah. As you can see, this is something that we hold dear in our hearts because we come from very different family backgrounds as well. And we have experience, right? What poor financial literacy really means. Okay? We just hope that you don't make that decision. Thank you so much for watching this episode of the Buy Now, Pay Later Singapore's Real Estate Explained It was just getting longer and longer. Singapore Real Estate Explained podcast or video. If you like it, share with your friends. Give us a thumbs up. Comments downstairs, anything you want to do, right? But thank you so much for watching this. We'll see you for the next one. Bye-bye.
See you. Bye.